Greetings to everyone that's joined in. From looking at the chat box on the event and the stage, there's people from across the globe. So good afternoon, good morning, and maybe middle of the night for some people in the States. So glad you could join us. We have a really excellent group for the first panel to talk about the topic, preparing the downstream sector for the technology revolution. So I'm going to let the speakers introduce themselves, but we've got people from Shell, from Essar, from DuPont, from Hellenic, Petroleum, and Petrobras. So quite a wide range of folks, some good diverse viewpoints. And I'm going to ask each panelist to give just a very short personal intro and talk about something about what your insight is, a very high level on Industry 4.0, and maybe some of the challenges, and then we'll cover some of the other topics after that. So the first person I'd like to invite to speak from Shell, Gerco.
Hi, good morning, good day. My name is Gerco van den Brink, and I am the digital transformation lead for the Pernis Refinery in the Netherlands and the Moerdijk chemical plant in the Netherlands. And where our target within Shell is to deliver digital technology and innovation which impacts our bottom line performance. As a downstream business, digital transformation for us is a key enabler to stay attractive and competitive in our business. For us, it's not a question if, but with which speed we can transform our sites. And new technologies and innovations are already available nowadays, but our challenge is that we have very old facilities, some built in the 1950s, some more recent, but a lot of them not geared with the amount of smart instrument or data that you want to get out of your factory nowadays. But also that we have over 2,000 people working on our site each day. So to get to really transform our ways of working, we have a huge change journey, not only on the technical side, but also on the people side. So this is our main challenge and the challenge we are facing today.
Thank you. Now, Raahil from Essar.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Very happy and pleased to be on this panel. Looking forward to some very interesting discussions. I've been with Essar for about 3 years. I've worked for Essar earlier in India on their power and oil and gas sectors. And then I joined Essar Oil UK recently in about October 17. Ever since then, we have been working on trying to build an end-to-end value chain transformation. And the transformation is quite multi-dimensional, actually, not just digital. It is digital plus, as Marco said earlier, we have some similar challenges of having very old assets in our refinery. So it was a Shell refinery, so we have acquired something which has been built by Shell. So the challenges have been imposed earlier before we took over the site. So we have been quite well actually on our journey of digitalization. We have done quite a few good systems so far and looking forward to doing more. And I can share more details as we go along. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raahil. Vinicius from DuPont.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me all right. I'm Vinicius Branchini. I'm speaking to you from Geneva, Switzerland this morning. I work for DuPont Sustainable Solutions. It's a consulting firm, so I guess I'll be bringing a little bit of the diversity element to the discussion today, as my typical role is not actually managing operations, but actually helping organizations to do so. In DuPont Sustainable Solutions in DSS, I lead a very talented group of people who runs our technology ecosystems platform called SafetyTech.ai. And essentially, through this platform, we help organizations to get access to technologies that are currently available to different industries. So we take organizations to digital transformation roadmaps, and one of the key challenges we see in this process is essentially navigating through the amount of options that are out there in terms of vendor providers and technologies, types and forms, and actually moving these initiatives to impactful projects that are bringing the results that are mostly needed. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Vinicius. Panos from Hellenic. You're on mute. Panos, you're on mute. Let's jump over to Marcio from Petrobras.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here today. My name is Marcio Wagner. I'm transfer and storage manager at Henrique Refinery at Petrobras. Thanks for the organizer for this event. Well, for us, the digital transformation is a powerful tool in our strategy to improve our operations, especially related to energetic efficiency. And the COVID-19 pandemic leads us to a necessity of a more efficient operation. So I really believe that the digital transformation is a fundamental enabler for the future in the oil and gas industry, especially in the downstream industry. Thanks again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Marcio. Let's try Panos again.
All right, I think we are back in business. The most famous expression of 2020 was "you are muted" or "we cannot hear you." I don't know what happened there. Anyway, I'm Tsiakis. I joined Hellenic last year in 2020. It's my third time now in Future Downstream. Excited to be here. In my previous occasion, I joined as a consultant, now as an industry comer. So what are the challenges Hellenic is facing? I don't think it's any different than the people who spoke earlier. Most of the European refineries are old, ill-equipped when it comes to sensors or when it comes to actual machinery. We have some, as everybody, some recent investments which are better designed and better source of data. The biggest challenge we're facing is data, and I think will be mentioned over and over again in these sessions that are going to follow. So we're trying to find a way of how to use this data, how to move into this maturity level from getting just insights to becoming more predictive, becoming more kind of AI, a kind of machine learning focused organization. So we'll mention a few more things as the time passes around the roadmap, so I will cover a bit more details, and please feel free to ask anything you need to know, or I can give you an answer.
Thank you, Panos. We're going to go on to our next topic about defining some sort of digital roadmap, but I might mention a question we have from the audience. Shane McArdle asked, do you feel the digital immaturity of your facilities, such as IoT, sensors, structured and unstructured data sources, prevent you from starting your digital journey? So maybe any of you, when you talk about your digital roadmap, you might talk about how are you challenged by digital immaturity. Gerco?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think I do recognize the problem, to be honest. So if we talk about our digital roadmap, and I'm not talking about the complete digital roadmap of Shell, of course, which is also a large roadmap, but my focus is more on the refinery and the chemical plant. And within our roadmap, we actually have three main pillars. And the first pillar actually relates, I think, to the question. So it is actually installing the latest state-of-the-art hardware using technologies like wireless sensors. We have a LoRaWAN network at our sites on which we can deploy wireless sensors quite easily. But also hardware like robotics and drones that can actually take pictures, in which you can build artificial intelligence all to generate more data and to become data-centric in our decision-making. So that's one of our key pillars in our digital roadmap, to really change our ways of working, but also reduce exposure on-site in the facilities when it's not needed. The second thing I think from our roadmap is that we are also focusing on the state-of-the-art more software packages. The digital twin journey is one which we're embarking upon, but also the deployment of iPads and mobile devices in the field plus applications to our frontline to enable an improvement in efficiency and also employee satisfaction in our ways of working. Because having all data and information readily and easily available at your fingertips, either via a digital twin or via a connected worker in the field, is what we need to go after. And then the third pillar in our roadmap is actually the advanced analytics. So algorithms, machine learning to maximize the value from the data which we are going to generate or already generating, and help us to automate our processes and decision making by the use of these technologies. So these three parts are the foundation of our digital roadmap at our sites, where the underlying foundation is about how to integrate all of this into our ways of working, our work processes, to really also change it for our employees, because the technology on itself doesn't do it most of the time. We need the people to embed it, embrace it, and start to apply it. And I'll give some more examples later on how we have overcome certain challenges.
That sounds great. I really like your last point about integrating it into your work practices. There's quite a high percentage of these digital journeys that fail, where people haven't realized it's not just about technologies and tools, that you have to change your decision hierarchy, your culture, your work process. So thanks for mentioning that. Raahil, what are you guys doing about some sort of a digital roadmap?
Yeah, so we started working on an integrated roadmap of, we called it as Smart Value Chain Program. So the core principle of that program was to first identify the value processes within the organization, because often we tend to spend a lot of time on processes which sometimes don't add really value. So we focus on those which add value and which have more propensity of actually giving better outcomes, really. And when we look at those processes, we define them into three pillars: the inbound supply chain, the manufacturing, and the outbound supply chain. Because we are a single integrated refinery, right from buying crude to selling fuels in the market. So we have the ability to actually break these into three areas and then look them as one integrated approach, and still focus on some of the core areas where within those process stacks also you have some capabilities which are better than the others. So there's always something to learn from within the organization and try to build that further and use it into the next program. Another big principle we worked on all the times is, should we do process simplification before even applying any digital tool? So this is our main approach actually. Whenever we face any business problem, we look at the process first and see whether the process can be simplified by very practical means, rather than trying to apply a big tool, which is an overkill sometimes, because we are, as I said, a small company really, from an end-to-end perspective. So with single refinery, single location, single market, local market as a key market, so it's not as complex a business model as some of the others. So there's no point actually trying to apply the tools which are being applied by others straight away into this scenario. So there are lots of practical ways which you can optimize even the program of digitalization by looking at the business scenario we are in, and what value that program can bring, and that value, is it justified through the business cases involved. So I can of course keep talking about this very long, but just to give another quick flavor of what the program is about 30-35 different initiatives of improving the processes. And in the process improvement, if you find that there is a digital tool to be changed, or just enhance the existing ones, or integrate with some other tool, try to rationalize the number of tools that you have been using. So all these things we apply during that program of managing those 35 initiatives. And we had a struggle actually trying to get capital for some of these programs during the last 1 year. So there has been some slowdown now, but we will ramp it up again as we go forward, into the years, into the coming months when we'll be out of the lockdown and having some brighter future.
Thank you, Raahil. Vinicius, what can you tell us about the digital roadmap in your company?
Thank you. I would probably share what we see at the client organizations we collaborate with. And we see it doesn't really matter the industry, but we see that a roadmap that is prone to be way more successful is a roadmap that is really connected to business objectives. So if you take the challenges that have been mentioned so far by yourselves, aging assets, equipment failure, one that is very close was safety violations, decarbonization that was mentioned on the opening discussion in this forum. Aging workforce is also very present. Typically, a good digital roadmap that will be likely accepted and sponsored by the decision takers. They should be covering these key areas to be successful. I also really much appreciated Gerco's comment on the people part. As a consulting firm specializing change management, we do recognize that as a key success factor for all these the digital transformation initiatives. So if you don't take people along the way at the very beginning, the ones that will be impacted by the adoption of new ways of working through technologies or other ways, it's very likely that these people will pose resistance and become skeptical about the benefits of these change at the workplace. So I do echo that important point that was mentioned before. And I feel that that if I had to advise organizations where to go first, I would say start with the people, get them involved earlier on, get them to understand that the roadmap, the technologies, to be part of the decision-taking process of the selecting of the technologies, and get their voice heard from the beginning. You may come across additional use case that you haven't considered just because you haven't asked yet the people involved.
Great points. Panos from Hellenic.
Yeah, we have what we did at the end of 2019. We did a 3-year roadmap, which, as Raahil said, is a value-based roadmap. We look at the processes around the refinery, and I'm talking only about the roadmap of the refinery now. Of course, there are other roadmaps that concern the other parts of the business we are in. So this 3-year roadmap is looking at all the aspects that Gerco mentioned that we need. For example, enablers, which is usually sensors or valves or pumps, etc., which can be remotely controlled or remotely get the unit. And also looking into the other stuff as systems of records or digital solutions that we can use. So there is an element of the old boring system of record, which we need to change our processes. We need to digitize our processes so that this work as efficient as possible and generate data, that the data can be used to do the more fun stuff that people like these days, like the analytics or use machine learning algorithms and get the insights you need or do the predictions that you need. So all these initiatives, they come under the digital refinery umbrella, where we are looking to get a competitive advantage to our peers where we operate. I can give you an example of a use case. For example, you might find interest. So one of the areas that we have good data is the laboratory. So we use the data from a laboratory on the crude oil we buy and blend in order to feed our distillation units to create a machine learning model which allows us to predict properties of the crude oil. before it even reaches at the buying point. That helps basically our planning processes, and that's we get a bit of understanding to help the traders. So depending on where we are around the refinery, depending on the quality of the data, depending on the quality of the process, we take the right decisions. Again, as Raahil said, we have a number of initiatives. It's about 25, the number, which is both process systems and digital enablers. And we are continuously reviewing that based on the value it generates. Some programs are accelerated, some programs are being put back. So the demand planning and the supply planning aspect of this digital transformation is also very important.
Thank you. Marcio, what are you guys doing at Petrobras?
In Petrobras, our digital transformation efforts are the improve the efficiency of processes, integrated, especially energy efficiency, hydrogen for process plants, and the integrated product plant in our, especially with the availability of the equipment using IoT devices. To our target in the maintenance is the predictive maintenance applying the machine learning and starting jobs. This is our desire to do. But I want to quote that this is necessary, that the digital transformation requires a transformation because we need to under data, we need to define the objectives and goals to treat and achieve the objectives. So in our refinery, in regular refinery, we are trying to promote a good transformation to on data to analyze. We have efforts in our FCC crude oil distillation and the delayed coking unit. So you are using integrated data to integrate the digital recommendations to question where we need to put to improve our reliability, consequently revenues in our process. So in Petrobras, we are focused in applied digital transformation to promote not only digital transformation, but the transformation for efficiency and better results for our company and our business. And one thing is the integration between the and midstream to improve the efficiency of our operation.
Thank you, Marcio. The next topic we wanted to talk to is about identifying and overcoming challenges and managing obsolete technologies. But one of the points we had from the audience was talking about the concept that, is data sources the problem? Do plants have significantly more data points than they are using or managing properly? This is from Russell Haber. Look, I wanted to ask you, often data is focused on process variables from a safety and control point of view, but maybe some of you are starting to be able to get more data from equipment integrity type issues to avoid problems there as well. So when you talk about the challenges in managing obsolete technologies, how are you handling this? Gerco?
Yeah. I'm just thinking a bit through that question and see if I can get a short answer to that, because it's I do recognize the problem, of course, with the data and information, and if we get enough data from the different sources. And I think the answer is, to be honest, no. So we are not very data centric in our aging refineries. So we don't get that much data, and it's not only about the data that comes from processes, but also the data that comes from the work process. So from the operators, from the maintenance crafts, from the turnarounds. Everybody sees and hears and notice things. The question is, how can we get insight to that data from their work process to actually support the process more and more? So I recognize the challenge. And again, so it is a challenge at our sites as well, but I don't have a crisp answer to this is the solution for it. I think the other point I want to mention on your question around challenges we faced and we overcame, it's less around obsolete technologies, to be honest, because I believe there are nowadays opportunities enough in the market to eliminate those problems. So enough vendors and other parties can support you on that. But our biggest problem is actually with all those types of initiatives is how to go from a proof of concept to a scale deployment. We noticed that initiatives at our sites can be very successful on a small scale with a small amount of data, small amount of people, but then to replicate that to more than 2,000 people, or our facility is more than 1,000 soccer field size wide. That is the biggest challenge, and not only on our end, but also on our vendors' end, because also for them, it is emerging technology. It's new. They are also sometimes going through a first deployment on these types of scales. So if we go from 50 sensors, which we recently had for people tracking on site, and that those 50 sensors work great, including the analytics and the platform and everything supporting it. But then we try to make the step to a larger community, and not even to the total 2,000 which we need to go towards, but it demands a lot more from platforms, from gateways, from computer power, the training of our staff, etc. And this is, I think, the point we need to address more in how we can overcome this challenge, to think in the front end on what would a large-scale deployment look like. And yes, we need to trial it small and trial it to see if it works. But in the end, our focus from the beginning should be on that end game, how it can really, similar to what Vinicius was saying, how it can help our business process and what it should do in the end game. And then again, and I cannot stress this out enough, but that change management journey, not only on the technical side and on the deployment side, but also on the people again. So to get your staff along and make sure that it's sustained and embedded in their ways of working.
Thank you. Raahil,
Sorry.
some of the challenges.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think taking forward the discussion about what transformation we have been trying to do and some of the key challenges within that. Of course, it's not just the old tech, I mean the tech process tech which we have, but it's the three big challenges I see is the ability to imagine or reimagine the new world in what digitalization can do for the processes that they are operating, or the processes that they are responsible for. In some areas, we don't even have the accountability really. So people don't think they are the owners of this process really. They just come and they just do their job and they think they are part of some chain. Someone else have to take care of this data. I'm not the one. Or data custodian, it's IT to manage the data. And we have these kind of challenges with the understanding of the concept of product ownership. Second biggest challenge I see is actually contextualizing the data. The issue is that only few people in your organization know exactly what the data means and how it can benefit the end goal. But they are so much removed into the hierarchy of the organization that they hardly get to see the big picture. So they don't know what data they are handling and what is the value of that data really. Now, this is another key. Again, it is linked to the imagination issue again, because the person who's actually handling the data doesn't know really what value it can bring, who they should be actually communicating with in the air. So I think earlier in the keynote, the word collaboration was very key actually. The collaboration is needed across supply chain in the industry as a sector, but there is still a lot of collaboration needed within the organization at the various parts of the organization to actually come together and understand the final vision and the outcome that this data can help with. And that brings to me to the third, the biggest is the skills and talent. Skills and talent actually is a big challenge in progressing at scale or at any kind of speed. And this is not just in IT. The skills and talent issue is everywhere. It's also in the supplier communities. I know I should not be saying this because some of these sponsors will not like this, but supplier communities also actually, they do come with the end in mind rather than trying to be part of the journey and understand what is needed through the journey really. So having a partner who can help us, because we are an end user companies, we are not tech companies, and we cannot afford to have very large tech teams appointed and working on our digital platforms or digitalization. So we have to depend on suppliers, and these suppliers need to be actually scale up their skills and talent actually to understand this and bring that collaborative way of actually deploying and engaging and creating awareness in the organization and becoming the change agents actually to drive this change. So this is where I would like to stop for now, because these are the key challenges that I see.
Thank you. Vinicius.
Thank you, Raahil. I'm extremely excited. If you could see me at the time, I was nodding along. Most of what you said is typically what we observe as well. I think we can go about talking like Gerco was talking about, and the question was about obsolete technologies on site. But I also would like to look at the aging population, the aspect of it. Not because people are obsolete, but because they will eventually not be there anymore available. And it speaks to Raahil's comment on specifically to what extent this knowledge is available for the interpretation of these data. So we talk a lot about predictive failure models. All these algorithms, at the end of the day, they need some expert knowledge to ensure that the correlations are being done at the extent that they are bringing meaningful insights. But also there is a need for someone at the end of the line to take a decision. We can make some of this process automatized in some ways, but someone has to call the shots. And if the knowledge is absent, if this experience is no longer there, we may be facing an additional issue beyond just the whole technology and the whole aging asset discussion we had before. So I feel, again, going back to what a good roadmap should look like, a good roadmap should also consider, to a very large extent, ways to capture this knowledge, ways to ensure that, through a digitalization of job cycle checks, for example, or ways to capture this expert knowledge that is there and soon to be lost. As a cultural transformation expert, this is where I spend most of my career in consulting at. We also quite understand the challenge around the scalability, how to engage beyond 50 people, right, in any new ways of working. And here, I think organizations are benefiting from some level of support on that, either by creating this change agent machine in the organization, or by getting some external support to that.
Thank you. Panos.
Yeah, I think some very good points raised all across the spectrum. Where we see the challenges, or what we're trying to do is we're trying to build an ecosystem of partners, there are other business partners, technology providers, consultants, universities, to help us in this journey. And this journey is very much related also to the company's ambition, because a lot of these decisions are capital decisions. How much are you willing to spend? And are you going to get the value, and what is the lifetime? So these are kind of critical components and critical factors that we always being asked. So within these challenges, we are trying to identify obsolete technology. But as Gerco said, it's about change management. And what we're trying to do, and I'm talking here as an IT, business-facing IT person, is we're trying to educate the people within the plants that the applications and the data are owned by them in a sense. So it's their responsibility, in partnership with IT, with the digital transformation programs, to come up with the next generation of solutions, to identify what is the best plan for them. So all this governance around data and applications becomes very important. It's an aspect of change management, changing the culture of some of the people who are used to operating in silos to operate in a more holistic way, understanding the value of what they're doing within an integrated supply chain. And that's what we're trying to do. Another aspect is we start to introduce elements like service management, work management. We're basically using principles from product life cycle. We're trying to keep an eye on the product, keep an eye on the service, and follow it through its lifetime. There is we know that at some point either will have to die, or we'll keep extending it for as long as feasible. So the challenges of managing technology, especially obsolete technology, are there. People are used in their ways. People want to keep doing things that they are feeling comfortable with. So any change, even if it makes sense, in certain cases, is not accepted. It needs to be solved in the right manner. Another element that the refineries face, and generally industrial operators is security. So a lot of these technologies we have been built, that they have been using in the last 10, 15 years, or they have not considered the aspect of cyber attacks. So wireless sensors, wireless controllers, all these need to be monitored, and they can become obsolete very quickly if they don't comply with security protocols. To give you an example, recently we had some all of RFID scenes because the protocols were not up to the latest standards. So all these things give you. You can imagine the number of parameters you have to consider when you're dealing with technology, when you're dealing with systems, when you're dealing with people.
Thank you. Marcio, what was your biggest challenge with obsolete equipment?
Very good points from our colleagues. In Petrobras, the most part of our refineries have more than 40 years. So the obsolescence of the devices is a challenge. But I understand that we need to have tools and to identify and manage these obsolete devices, especially related to avoid our digitalization. We understand to identify and to use the digital transformation concept to ask what kind of information you, and based on this we identify the necessity of capital investments to improve the activity of the plan to bring of the downstream future. We need to more integrated process plans. It implies more connectivity and online monitoring. So, and our efforts is to make this in our plants, postpone the possible is the investment, but define the what kind of investment you need to improve the connectivity of the process plant to achieve our goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last topic for the panel today is about exploring innovation. And so with the time we have left, I was wanting to know if each of you could maybe just share one example of an innovation that you're proud of or you think is particularly good within your company. Gerco.
Yeah, then I need to choose which one. No. So to give one example, and I think I'm going to talk about the wireless sensors and the Internet of Things. And so at our site, we have geared up a LoRaWAN network, a long-range wide area network, on our facilities, on which we can easily integrate wireless sensors. And what's the difference? So nowadays, the market actually is going very quick, and we already can get temperature, pressure, valve positioners, and many more EX sensors. And the difference is that these sensors come in a price range of, in our case, around 100 to 750 euros. And to install and implement is quite easy, because you don't need to build a lot of wires or connect it to your DCS, etc. It's, as we say, plug and play. And a traditional measurement, if we want to install that one, will cost around 10,000 euros on average to implement on our facilities. So it is making it a factor of 100 cheaper potentially to start to retrieve data from our facilities. And that, in my opinion, is a great example of these new innovation and new technologies, where we also, for old facilities, can easily justify these type of expenditures. And it's not, of course, for the sake of having the data, but with this data, we can build predictive maintenance models. So we have vibration sensors on our pumps on which we have built the predictive maintenance models. But also we can do the same more from the operational side for seal temperatures, so that we can actually, instead of an operator controlling it each shift, we have a data model now in place that, the operator gets an alert when there is an anomaly. So the wireless sensors, in our case, make are able to transform, become more data centric in a cost efficient way. For us to, in the end, support our bottom line performance.
Thank you. Raahil, do you have a good example of an innovation you've applied?
Yeah, so I think innovation is something to be defined really. It's not just bringing a new technology is innovation. You can innovate in very different ways, actually. You can innovate from process perspective, you can innovate from financial perspective. So we have done quite a few different things in the overall business optimization. So innovations can play a big role actually when it comes to trying to do a holistic business optimization rather than focusing on point solutions, trying to solve smaller data problems or smaller equipment problems, or those kind of things. So our approach is more end-to-end as usual. I'm looking at AI as a platform, and we have done some POCs, proof of concepts, on 2 or 3 different business case scenarios of how we can try to bring optimization to the table by looking at overall plant availability or plant effectiveness rather than doing just predictive maintenance on 50 equipments. So this is our approach actually. We have done some POCs. We are going to look at scaling up. We are looking at some other options of using blockchain in a trading business to reduce the number of KYC documentation and other backend documentation that can be avoided. We're looking at many other areas of applying some of the very simple tools of just having a mobile private network across the site. I mean, connectivity is the biggest issue in terms of accelerating innovation. So it's very important to have a very site-wide seamless network which can bring data into one place, because otherwise what happens is every point solution tries to take that data into their clouds, because they come with a package solution saying I can do this, and the data will go into my cloud. I will give you the analysis from there. Now that will create future islands actually. So we can avoid that now by having more holistic approach currently, by trying to have a more unified cloud strategy rather than having so many point innovations going on. That's what I can.
Really resonate. Some of the companies which have been successful in these implementations have actually spent 50% of their budget on changing process and workflow. So, and were they successful? But the people that only focused on the kit alone maybe weren't as successful. The other point I liked was about the separate clouds versus one unified cloud. I think that's a great thing, especially in terms of the digital twins we've heard about, is getting that all into one location. So I'd like to ask Vinicius, what kind of a good example of innovation have you used?
Yeah, I'll keep it short, as good examples have been shared already. So I think I will go back to the topic about knowledge transfer, knowledge retention, and knowledge transfer. And we've seen very good examples on use of different types of reality, AR, VR, MR, for actually knowledge transfer. We do feel that, and we have experienced the fact that the use of such technologies is actually speeding up significantly the time for experience acquiring, as you won't have 35 years gap to be closed as you need new operators to be up and running. So I would probably stay with that. We have had experience with connected PPE device with different type of people-centric technologies, as is the area where we mostly work with, and quite successfully. I echo the comments around the advancements on technology, and also I also echo the concern shared around the variety of platforms and clouds that if you don't have a centralized approach, you will probably end up with 10 or 12 different screens to manage in the future.
Thank you. Panos, can you share with us?
Yeah. So actually, I was going to talk about a similar example that Gerco mentioned in the beginning with kind of tag and trace of employees. So here it's not about more about innovation; it's about technology optimization. So do we have LoRa networks around the plant to capture all this sensor data, which is OT data, and just to quote here, that one of the biggest problems that we have is integrating OT with IT data. That's where you actually, most of the oil companies will face challenge. But nevertheless, we use that network from an IT point of view during a shutdown. We want to understand the footprint of our staff and contractors. We're talking about 3,000 people a day coming into the refinery, at one of our refineries for shutdown maintenance. So with COVID-19, we wanted to understand the concentration of people, avoid large number of people in certain areas, and also in case we had any incidents or cases of COVID, to be able to trace back the contacts of the people. So we developed an app which actually was giving a based on the plan of the plant a footprint of all the workers, the connections, and with the drone we could actually see visually as well wherever there was a high concentration of people, and then have the relevant announcements or trying to ensure that there is enough distancing wherever possible, or additional safety measures that could be taken in order to avoid a potential COVID transmission. So that's kind of a technology optimization stroke innovation case that I can share with you today.
Thank you. Marcio, what kind of innovation are you exploring in Petrobras?
Well, my camera, I'm sorry, because my internet sign is not good. But in Petrobras, we are applying AI, monitoring our requests and variables to produce monitoring process, especially related to costs in energy and that to improve is the hydrogen. The future, the current scenario in the future is worse. Hydrogen is a important drive downstream. We are applying of hydrogen to work energy to minimize the and I strongly that this that has a fantastic potential to reduce our costs and especially the CO2 emission. And the monitoring of the machines like pumps and compressors improves the reliability of our process plants. And related to the COVID-19 scenario, we are developed some online trainings of our operations to develop the cultural change needed to the digital transformation. And we are really promoting a deep cultural transformation. And unfortunately, the pandemic led all players in the downstream industry, not only the downstream industry, but the COVID pandemic lead to innovate to improve our performance. But as a common phrase in the economy that quotes, we can't a crisis. We need to learn from crisis and be back from this. I believe that we are in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. We've come to the end of our initial topics that we had. We wanted to answer a few questions. I've been reading the chat section on the stage. I think we've covered several of those. One of the questions that I was wondering to ask was the impact of the energy transition on your facilities. So as we talk about technology, technology revolution, what about something like using more renewable energies in your energy mix? For any of you that have hydrogen, are you contemplating shifting from so-called blue hydrogen to green hydrogen, things like that? If you could share anything, what you might be doing with your energy mix and the energy transition. Gerco?
Yeah, I think so. The energy transition is a key part of. Sorry, and I'm hearing myself double. How is that possible? It's a key part, of course, on our refinery and chemical plant to ensure that we have a future representation still. And it's a very broad question, but I think, of course, the energy demand is becoming more and more important. So we try to start at least to also give as much insight as possible to where actually our energy or our steam or our utilities are actually delivering its quantities toward us, so that you can actually know to which part of your factory you need to change or adjust to make them more optimal. But also on the other hand, we see the latest developments to move more towards the circular economy. So on our chemical side, we are moving towards the circular plastics to become a bigger player in that world, and also to invest in technologies and equipments to build that process. And on the refinery side, it's more about, we are also going to explore into the green oils. So the sorry, I'm struggling now with the English name. The vacuum. Sorry, I'm now I've lost for the word. But the green oils, so that comes from the fat from the fries. That's where we're going to invest to actually become also more energy efficiency and energy neutral in the future.
Well, that's good. Raahil, what kind of impact of the energy transition on Essar?
So we are very much looking forward to participating in the UK's net zero vision, which is we are part of the HyNet Northwest program, where there will be a blue hydrogen facility within Stanlow complex. There will be another facility. We recently signed up partnership with Fulcrum from US, who will be converting waste to jet fuel, biojet fuel. We are also looking at improving our own energy utilization and trying to bring the circular economy, as Gerco said earlier. Similar efforts are going on in terms of reducing our own consumption of energy within the organization. But mainly with these two programs of HyNet Northwest, blue hydrogen manufacturing and distribution is going to happen from the Stanlow Refinery, and the other one is on waste to jet fuel, which will also be distributed using our transportation network. So this is what we are working on, the transition actually. So trying to create a new future for Stanlow in the decarbon economy.
Thank you, Raahil. Vinicius, one of the things of the energy transition is for people to clearly identify their carbon footprint, what kind of greenhouse gas emissions they have, what they might be doing on that. In your company, what do you see people doing on that aspect of better representing, capturing the data of their scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, maybe?
Yeah, I guess this is in the agenda of every CEO we speak with. As for being a consulting firm, it's not actually something where we are particularly acting on ourselves to the same extent of other companies. We do have our own initiatives, perhaps to a lesser extent compared to what we see in the sector here. I guess most certainly my colleagues here would have additional insights from the actual refinery standpoint to this question.
Okay, thank you. Panos, what are you all doing with respect to your energy mix for the energy transition?
Yeah, so as an organization, we're trying to optimize energy consumption. So there are multiple programs focusing around the facilities, around the refinery, try to identify energy waste, optimize that first, and then bring into the mix renewable energy. So as an organization, similar to what others have done, we're invested in solar power, and looking into creating an energy mix that is more environmentally friendly, trying to minimize our carbon footprint, and tied up to the Greek government of minimizing total emissions as part of the overall framework for the European Union. So still, it's a strategy that is evolving day by day. There are some commitments made by the organization on sustainability. Again, looking more into biofuels, blending more biofuels within our products, making them cleaner. So it's a wide range of initiatives that are taking place. That's where we are at the moment, till a few decisions to be made.
I think that's about all the time we have today for our slot. I want to thank all the speakers. We've I don't know about some of the other attendees to this event, but I've taken a lot of notes here on the side, really excellent points. I've enjoyed hearing from the slightly different perspective, different size companies, different kind of facilities. It's really good. It sounds like people are doing really good things, and it's needed if we're going to continue to strengthen the downstream sector using the technology, but changing our processes, our cultures, our workflows. It all goes in to produce more efficient energy usage, to have less waste and emissions, to deliver more value from our existing facilities, to extend the life of these facilities. It's amazing the age of some of these facilities and how people have managed to keep them safe and keep them going. Hopefully, these kind of technologies and tools used in the right way can keep that safe record going to avoid any surprises and optimize our processes, but also look after the integrity of our facilities. We've got some wonderful technologies and tools, but they aren't really that useful if we don't think about what's their objective, what are we trying to get out of our business, what should we do to change our workflows and cultures. And it's good to hear that people are doing that. It's encouraging, and hopefully as we go through the rest of the Future Downstream conference, the rest of today and tomorrow, we'll keep hearing more, and some of these common threads will come out, and we'll get some good value out of this. So thank you, Gerco, Raahil, Vinicius, Panos, and Marcio. Appreciate your time and contributions. I'll hand back over to the organizers now. Thank you, guys.